You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Good afternoon, Steelers Nation. It's The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson with you here for the next 2 hours on a Monday. As it is February, it is Super Bowl week. Senior Bowl,
it's Super Bowl week, huh?
Senior Bowl's in the books. Combine staring us.
Things will start happening pretty quick.
Down the barrel here.
Comes quick, yeah.
Yep, our fearless leader Brian LaMartina was in here talking combine schedule with us just before we got started.
Ooh, I could hit you up on that.
So things are happening. The moving, the shaking, and as always, Matt, the news of the day.
News of the day.
Friday evening, shortly after you and I got off air, or maybe like in the final 2 or 3 minutes of the show, the Steelers made it official. What we had all, what all the reports had indicated is now official. The Steelers have named Patrick Graham as the team's defensive coordinator on this Mike McCarthy staff. Patrick Graham spent the last 4 years with Vegas as the Raiders defensive coordinator. That was his 17th year coaching in the NFL, so this will be his 18th season coming up. He's had a variety of different roles with the Patriots, the Giants, the Packers, the Dolphins, and like I mentioned, most recently, the Raiders. He has been a defensive coordinator in the NFL for each of the last 7 seasons. Matt, this is an experienced hire here for Mike McCarthy to lead his defense.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and I've done a lot more homework on it. So this past year with the Raiders, they played a ton of zone. I mean, because they didn't have any man corners, but they still were like one of the absolute best teams in the league, not allowing explosives. I know we'll talk about explosives here in a bit, but it makes the world go round in the NFL nowadays. They were really good against the run, and I'll argue Max Crosby's maybe one of maybe 2 or 3 or 1 players that would start for the Steelers who aren't the most talented defensive league, but is a much more talented one than the Raiders.
Sure.
And he has a long history of taking, frankly, bad football players and making you a meal that you can eat out of it. You know, I mean, the ingredients conversation we have here, the ingredients he's been given are poor. And we've mentioned that in the past, but he's also been a part of some of the most disastrous head coaching situations in the league, too.
Yeah.
And has put together pretty impressive performance. You know, again, without a lot of things working against him. I'll just say that.
I think that's a very good way to put it. There's some parallels for me of, I don't know, maybe a guy like Baker Mayfield, who throughout his career was in so many unstable situations.
Yeah.
And then when he finally got a lick of stability,
right,
you could see what he was capable of. Not future Hall of Fame, all-time great.
Right.
But he was a legit starting franchise quarterback in this league.
Get me out of the mess.
Get me out of the mess.
Yeah.
You know, and
Darnold's
even
a great example.
Sam Darnold, one of
the
those
better example. Yeah.
One of those type of guys who comes from a situation where the coaching staffs are always getting fired. They have a different offensive coordinator every year, a lot of turmoil, and they're still able to find some ways to have some success, some stability. And then all of a sudden you put them in a stable situation and they can really take off.
Yeah.
There's some kind of, when you look at the areas that Patrick Graham has been in the past, what he's been able to do with little, and with coaching staffs that are being upheaved, with head coaches that are being hired and fired, I think some stability is going to go a long way for him. And I think he's got a chance to really, take off and become one of those names that's well known as a defensive coordinator around the league.
Yeah, I think that's very possible, assuming that now stability starts now in Pittsburgh.
Sure.
He's not coming to a stable environment. He's coming to what probably will be, history shows, to say the least. Speaking of which, and we'll probably even bring this up, we know that now there's 10 coaching positions that were opened and now filled, basically. There were 21 offensive coordinators changed this year.
Wow.
21.
I mean, that's well over half the league.
Just talking about instability, and one of which was Philly. I know this was what we were talking about, but this will be 10th of 11th. Jalen Hurts' last 11 seasons going back to Bama. This will be his 10th new coordinator.
It's crazy.
It's like
Baker Mayfield has had like 9
in
his 10 years in the league.
It's
that.
insane, right? And how do you expect these guys to succeed? But anyway, Yes, he's very Belichickian, which is a big part of his tour too. Is he's a Belichick coaching tree, and I mentioned this last week that so many of these new hires are going to say, "We want to be multiple. We're going to be multiple. We're going to change all the time," and then you get to week 5 or 6, and they're doing what they do. Because it's not as easy as you think. But Graham, that's kind of his backbone. Is he's a chameleon. Depending on what ingredients you give him, depending who the upcoming opponent is, this is going to be a heavy man week. This is going to be a heavy blitz week. This is going to be a heavy zone week. We don't have any man corners, so we got to play zone. What can we do to at least survive without being able the whole world knowing we can't play man? And he's been really good at it.
He sure has.
Yeah.
Now you give him some more stability, hopefully. You give him some better ingredients to work with in that kitchen, in that pantry, and hopefully he's going to be leading a rejuvenated, revamped Steelers defense here in 2026. So
I think he gives them a much better chance to have a schematic advantage on that side of the ball than they did.
Yes. Yes.
Put it that way.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Matt, a couple other things that are being reported. Remember, we always differentiate. That's been officially announced by the Steelers. There's also obviously a lot of other reports around Steelers centering in on other coaching staff targets, credible reports. One of those, Tom Pelissero, of course, of the NFL Network, reporting that the Steelers are zeroing in on Danny Crossman as their next special teams coordinator.
Yeah.
59 years old, little Wikipedia scouting on him, Matt. He has most recently been with the Miami Dolphins as their special teams coordinator for the last few years. He's been with the Miami Dolphins organization actually in that capacity since 2019. Before that was with the Bills, then the Lions, then the Carolina Panthers. Has been a special teams coordinator in this league since 2007 and has a pretty extensive background that includes some time in college. He was linebackers coach and special teams coordinator at Michigan State, same role at Georgia Tech. He's a Pitt grad. Another one of you Pitt guys populating the coaching staff here. Terrell Austin on his way out, so you gotta replace him somehow with another Pitt man. He was a second team All Big East cornerback at Pitt back in the 80s. Also played a little fullback for Pitt. So was a two-way player at his time here. When
some special teams
when he was in college, I'm sure he did. So sounds like Danny Crossman in line again. All still just reports as of now, but credible ones to be the next special teams coordinator for the Steelers.
I don't have anything to add yet in terms of what you just said.
Wikipedia scouting.
Yeah, exactly, and that's all fine. I'd have to I've been too busy this morning to even see how good Miami's special teams were last year compared to the rest of the league. And I'll look the next couple of years, but it's kind of a tight-knit special teams community. They all kind of know each other, and Danny Smith was great at what he did here. He's going to have big shoes to fill. So the other thing is, we've talked about this over the years, but Tomlin, more than most coaches, dedicated more resources to special teams than a lot did.
You're only allotted so much time.
Yeah, practice time, roster spots.
It's not the old days of two-a-days. And
so it's something I hadn't thought about yet because there's been so much change with the coaching staff. Will this coaching staff see it the same way? I don't know.
That's one of those not everybody is created in the NFL and how much time they devote and what you're only allotted, that 2-hour time frame every day of practice of how much you spend on special teams. That'll be something that we'll discuss at training camp.
I'd say training camp, it'll be pretty obvious.
Couple more, Matt. Scott Tolzien, who we mentioned Friday. According to Pelissero in the NFL Network, he is in Pittsburgh today, Monday, interviewing for the offensive coordinator job. Just 38 years old. So he would be one of those younger, up-and-coming, ascending minds that we've talked about. You like to have both ends of the spectrum on your staff.
Yeah.
The experienced Danny Crossman and Patrick Grahams of the world, but the younger up-and-comers as well. He also played for Mike McCarthy in Green Bay and coached for him in Dallas, so a ton of familiarity there, and he was actually one of the offensive coordinators at the Senior Bowl this past week.
Yeah, I'd say he was real involved with the Senior Bowl, coming from the Saints.
Yep.
He would be younger than Aaron Rodgers if that would be if they were to reunite, like 4 or 5 years, something like that. Was not a particularly good quarterback, but he's that typical mold where the only reason he even got the league was because he's good from the head up. I mean, great from the head up. He just is not gifted enough to do it. But he worked with Tyler Shuck last year. That Saints offense got good, and they really did not have
The
much
back
talent
half of the
at
season,
all.
they were
Yeah,
one of the
impressive.
most improved units in the league.
Yeah, and they had traded Shaheed, and they had their own issues. And what's his face? The head coach for the Saints is also a really good offensive mind. Kellen Moore.
Yeah,
and I think Moore worked with McCarthy too.
he did.
Okay, I mean, there's a lot of overlap here.
There's a lot of overlap, and as you mentioned, all these like 6 degrees of separation for all these guys, and who played for who, and who coached with who, and
in this group, it's like 1 degree of separation. I mean,
That's right.
They're not branching too far out, right?
And last but certainly not least, according to Jerry Dulac, Mike McCarthy will be adding former Pitt and IUP coordinator Frank Signetti Jr.
Oh yeah,
Kurt's brother, to the offensive staff in some capacity. He was Mike McCarthy's quarterback coach in Green Bay back in 2018.
Okay.
He was the Pitt offensive coordinator when they won the ACC in 21, and Kenny Pickett had that big season. So a familiar name, a Signetti, Frank Signetti, according to Dulac, will be added to the offensive staff. We don't know exactly what that role is going to be. Could be. Tom Arth, we're thinking as quarterback coach. If you got an offensive coordinator hire here, maybe he's a senior offensive assistant, something in that regards.
Yeah.
But again,
sounds like they hired an offensive, again, not official, an offensive line coach to be a running back coach, and Jari Evans is supposed to be the assistant line coach, and so receiver spots filled. I guess he could be tight ends or senior assistant or passing game coordinator or whatever you want to call him. But right,
absolutely.
No, but he's got a good reputation. The Pitt stuff, I just knew some people that knew him that thought highly of him, and I thought he did some innovative things. Got the most out of Pickett, that's for sure. It's funny, we're having like LaFleur's and Kubiak's, getting hired left and right now, and now we got Signetti's and
I know,
a lot of the
crazy.
same names, right?
It is crazy, and I'm looking actually now that I say that out loud. I think so. The offensive coordinator for Pitt, I think, actually was Mark Whipple that year.
Oh, that is true.
I'm getting my years messed up by one here. But he was at Boston College. He was at Pitt. He's been with the Green Bay Packers. He's been with the New York Giants, the Rams. He actually had 2 stints with Pitt.
I do know people that know him and like him, though, and have a lot of respect for him. So, okay.
Yes. So, Frank Signetti Jr.
I assume he grew up in Indiana, PA.
He did.
His daddy was coach there forever.
Yes, he did. And he actually graduated from IUP. Pittsburgh guy, IUP graduate, spent some time on the Pitt staff in a couple different stints, has spent some time in the NFL, and it sounds like he is going to be a part of the staff in some capacity. Again, all of these, Patrick Graham now official, the rest of these all still just reports, but all from credible people, and it looks like that road is narrowing as the Steelers make some final decisions here for their staff.
And maybe we have a Tolzien situation by tomorrow this time.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible.
If he's here as we speak,
Definitely possible. Let's get to a break here. Let's talk to the voice of the Steelers, Rob King, when we return on the other side. Been a couple weeks. A lot has happened since we've talked to Kinger. We'll catch up with him when we return. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, just getting started here on The Drive. Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Back on The Drive here as we roll along on this Monday. To the phone lines we go to catch up with our buddy Rob King, of course, the voice of your Pittsburgh Steelers on the Steelers Audio Network. Kinger, thank you for taking the time. A lot has happened since we last spoke, so let's jump right into it. You actually had the opportunity last week to do a one-on-one sit-down with Mike McCarthy for Steelers.com. The Pittsburgh Steelers' 17th head coach in franchise history. What were your initial impressions of the hire, of your conversation with him? Just everything that's transpired here in the last week or so.
Well, first of all, there's a lot there. I think like a lot of people, you just sort of expected, even though I caution people, look, 3 hires in 56 years, that's not a trend. Once a year, once every 3 years, that might be a trend, but 3 in 56 years. Still, I kind of probably thought they were going to go as they had in the past, mid-30s guy, maybe early 40s. I wasn't sure if they're going to go offense, defense. So when they named Mike McCarthy, I was like, whoa, I was taken aback. But it didn't take long for me to warm to this hiring. I mean, this is a guy who is, I think, on his way to the Hall of Fame as well as Mike Tomlin. He's got obviously a proven track record with that. I thought his press conference was tremendous. The emotional part, I think, got everybody a little bit in the heart, But then when you sit down and talk with him, you realize, this guy's all business. And he said a lot of interesting things, being on the front end of trends, paying attention to trends, and don't follow them, get on the front of them. And, the different things that I think a lot of people think, well, he's an old school ball coach, and so he's just going to be set in his ways. I didn't come across with that impression at all. I came away with a guy who's going to use, and then I like the way he talked about his staff, hire experts and then hire guys that have energy. So like all these things, this isn't a guy to me that's just going to be coaching like it's 1999. This is a guy who's going to bring something new to the party and some expertise to the party as well. And I think that's a really intriguing combination.
Rob, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but to me, the two biggest selling points with this hire are pretty obvious, really, is one, stay as competitive as possible right now. Wes and I have been talking about
yes.
This organization's not going to be cool with a 3-win season, a 4-win season. Oh, we'll just take a step back. It's just not the DNA of the organization. And then number two is identifying and developing the next quarterback. And there were some other good candidates out there, but none of them could provide those two boxes checked as well as him.
Absolutely. And there are some good candidates out there who are right back in the same jobs they had.
Yeah.
Intrigued everybody and got everybody excited. Look, they identified the guy, and I think you're right. And Art Rooney said that. He said as much, I believe, before the hire. He was asked, hey, what are you looking for now that Mike Tomlin's gone? And he talked about those things. Look, we want to stay competitive. And I, by the way, kudos to Mike McCarthy for coming right out and talking about let's win a 7th Lombardi and saying the cupboard's not bare. I think there's a different perception about the Steelers and has been for a couple of years nationally and with some people locally too that I don't share. Like, guys, we talked about this up in training camp and before the season started. I could never understand people saying the Steelers are going to implode this year. And I had nobody picked them to make the playoffs. I was astonished by that. I thought they were a better team than they were the year before. And in fact, I think that the schedule broke bad for them, really, in a lot of ways. And they still won the AFC North and still got to the playoffs. And the perception is this is an aging roster. And okay, yeah, some of your best players, some of your most important players are in their 30s. But that's it. Nobody else is in their 30s.
No.
They've had 3 productive drafts. I think and Mike McCarthy said, the cupboard's not bare. This is a good roster. Let's go win a 7th Lombardi. So all those things, and you're right, eventually they got to get that quarterback. And I can talk about the roster all I want, but if you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter. You have to have the quarterback in place. So, yes, I think that's part of it, but I also think maintaining competitiveness, I think you nailed it, Matt. Those are the things that are important right now moving forward.
Kinger, let's talk about the quarterback situation then, because you're spot on. Everybody knows that's I don't even think it's fair to say the elephant in the room for the Steelers because everyone's addressing it and discussing it. It's not an elephant in the room. It's a well-known thing that the Steelers need to identify.
It's the room in the elephant.
It's the room in the elephant. That's exactly right, Kinger. It is well known that ever since Ben Roethlisberger has left, the Steelers have done the quarterback carousel thing, and they've had some good months of quarterback play. They've had some down months of quarterback play, a lot of everything in between there. Obviously, the biggest piece of this equation for this offseason 2026 is the future Hall of Famer, Aaron Rodgers. I think Matt and I have kind of gone back and forth over the last week or so, and even probably before the Mike McCarthy hire, of the pros, the cons, the age, the experience, balancing all of that with what's available in this free agent and draft class, like who you could realistically replace him with if you weren't going to go that route. Where are you at on the Aaron Rodgers conversation? You definitely want him back. You definitely don't want him back. You still want to kind of wait and see. What's your thought process around number 8, the future Hall of Famer?
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike McCarthy was asked that. I think it was the first question in the press conference. He's like, absolutely, I want him back. He said, I've already talked to him. I thought that was impressive, and he hasn't ducked that for a second. He wants it, and he could easily, for people that say, well, what else is he going to say? I'll tell you what else he could say. Well, we're evaluating all of our options right now, and
he could have coach speaked it up to know it.
Yeah, he could have been vague about it, but he wasn't. I want him back. And there were times, I thought, a lot of times, more often than not, Aaron Rodgers looked really good. I thought his arm talent was still elite. I'm no scout, but just looking at other teams and looking at the throws, all the games we had and the throws Aaron Rodgers can make, I think it's still elite. Look, I'd still like to see the team run the ball more. I didn't think they ran the football enough this year. There's some things I'd like to see him do maybe a little bit differently. But if you told me I could have Aaron Rodgers back, I'm all for it, especially since Mike McCarthy seems very intrigued by Will Howard. He came out and said that as well. We had Ben Roethlisberger on, Max and I, in the locker room, and Ben said the same thing. Hey, I want to see this kid. Well, we didn't see him at all because he got hurt and wasn't able to play in camp. So if you're going to bring a guy in to develop quarterbacks, everyone talks about, hey, get that young quarterback in this year's draft. Well, that seems to have dissipated a little bit. The draft class looks like it's going to be stronger next year in the quarterback department. You bring an Aaron Rodgers in, it's like what Matt just talked about a moment ago, Wes. You give yourself the best chance to be competitive now, and also possibly see if Will Howard is that guy you want to develop to be the quarterback of the future. I'm not saying you're buying time, but if there's another quarterback out there in free agency, and about the only guy I can even think of is Malik Willis, and your scouts and your coaching staff says, hey, man, this is the next great quarterback in the NFL, then all bets are off. Go get that guy. But I don't know if that person exists in free agency. I don't know if that person exists by a trade. And I don't think that person exists where you're going to be able to get him in the draft. So for all those reasons, including, again, what I said at the head, which is I still think there's a lot left with Aaron Rodgers' arm talent, I think bringing him back sounds like a good idea to me.
So, Rob, I know you didn't talk to Coach McCarthy for, a super long time, but you were around him and you sat down with him, and he has a reputation of being extremely detail-oriented, especially with offensive scheming and even more so with quarterbacking. Is that an impression you got from him too?
Yeah, I got I would say this, more than detail-oriented. Yes, I think those things come through. Like, when you listen to him, I was impressed by his energy level, just being like, let's go, man. Like, you could tell he's ready to get to work, man. He is eager and fired up and ready to roll. And I do think, talking about what he did in his time off, scouting players around the league, talking about the detail of what he's looking for in his staff. It's not I'm sure there's some feel and some other things, but hey, let's bring in experts and let's bring in energy. So that's a detail that I've never really heard it described that way. And when he's talking about, the use of, I think he talked about it in an interview he had with Bob Pompiani about, using analytics and things like that, and talking about being on the front end of trends, as I mentioned a little while ago. I think all those things are really positive. And, look, you see him and he's from Pittsburgh and he gets emotional, and it's easy to think, oh, he's an avuncular old coach. No, that's not, seems like a super nice guy, but that's not what you're getting. You're not getting a guy that's just going to be like, laughing and smiling and, clapping people on the back and letting other people know. He's going to be in it. That's the sense I certainly got. He's going to be in it with both hands and both feet and ready to go.
Rob King with us here on The Drive. He's always ready to go. Kinger, I think, one of the things that excites me most, and listen, there are plenty of our listeners, plenty amongst Steeler Nation that aren't gung-ho, aren't, over the fence about the Mike McCarthy hire. They wanted to go that younger, more ascending kind of prototype that we've seen the organization go with in the past. But even if you're someone who doesn't love it, even if you're lukewarm on it, whatever the case may be, I think you have to be excited about what we're going to see from this Steelers offense. And I think rightfully so, over the last handful of years, there's been some criticism that, too often the Steelers are trying to win games 14-10, and that's just a very hard recipe. You have to have X, Y, and Z go exactly your way to win in that style. Whereas with Mike McCarthy, I think it's going to be the complete opposite. We are going to see more wide receivers on the field, a whole lot of 3 wide receiver sets, which we barely saw. I think what he's going to be able to do with this offense, and, this is not to throw dirt on anybody that was here previously, but I think it's going to look much more of a modern offense, and that is something that this fan base has been crying out for a long time now. It
is, and I think that can happen in a number of ways. I think the the Rams are an interesting team, and Matt would know more about this than I, but they seem to use a lot of 3 wide receivers and run the ball really effectively. You don't have to have a power formation, extra offensive lineman, 2 tights to run the football. And look, I thought this year the offense took a step forward from what we've seen. I think Arthur Smith, he's overseen an offense that had the 4th most rushes 2 years ago to the 4th fewest or 5th fewest rush attempts this year. So he showed adaptability, but he does have a different scheme. It is tight end heavy. It is big personnel. And I think one of the things that became a problem this year, even as the Steelers began to run the football better behind that big personnel, is that, again, guys, I see the game through a different lens than other people. I'm up there calling the game. But it didn't look like a lot of receivers running free a lot for Aaron Rodgers, Mm-hmm. There looked like he had to zip the ball into tight windows a whole bunch. I remember having this discussion with my son a couple of years ago. Hey, George Pickens, another contested catch. And I said to him, that's great, but how about some uncontested catches?
Right.
Can we get some guys open,
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't feel like there were a lot of open guys. Maybe there's some analytics or some studies that would throw that back in my face, but that's what it looked like to me. And it's understandable when you got a lot of big guys running around. Other guys, quicker guys, receiving guys that maybe can also, schematically or toughness-wise or whatever the case, also help you in the running game. That'd be interesting to see. And by the way, I like Darnell Washington and I like Pat Freiermuth, and I'll be interested to see how they're utilized. One of the other things Mike McCarthy said was, you got to scheme offensively and defensively, but you have to tailor it to your talent. That's music to my ears because I'm not sure how well a lot of coaches do that. And I think it's something that he's going to have to do with the roster that he's been given.
Rob, last thing I got for you is this. When you look at the current roster, who's under contract, who are going to be back, do you agree that quarterback aside, wide receiver is your biggest need?
Yes. In fact, there's really no question.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look at this team and say, even if they don't bring Kenny Gainwell back, well, that's why you drafted Caleb Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
You got 2 good running backs. Go get another guy in the 5th round or another guy in free agency. You're fine there. I just mentioned the tight ends. Your offensive line, you kept drafting there. They kept improving. It'll be interesting to see. Hey, Spencer Anderson, the left guard, if he is, you might not need to that's an area that might not even need to address in free agency. Again, that's going to be internal evaluation. Defensively, I think they've got a lot of depth at a lot of places. I do think either a safety or another defensive back is going to be someone they're going to target, probably another inside linebacker. It's going to be someone they're going to target. I think they're always going to try to get guys in free agency or in the draft along both lines for sure. But no question, besides quarterback, they're going to be looking for a guy. They've been looking for that guy for a couple of years in a tight end heavy offense and haven't been able to find him. Well, if we're going more toward 3 wide receiver sets, you can bet that has to be moving to the top of the line. By the way, too, I'll be interested to see if they can do something more with Roman Wilson. But even if they can, they're going to need at least 1 high-end wide receiver, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Roman Wilson and Caleb Johnson got to be
get a new lease on life,
monitored.
maybe.
Yes,
right.
yes.
That's right.
New,
That's right.
classic. It's the classic kind of change of scenery, but instead of them moving to a different organization, it's change of scenery around the organization that they're with currently. I don't think you can bank on those guys, but there's certainly renewed life, renewed opportunity for both of them at the same time as well. Great stuff as always.
They're going to be guys. Yeah, there's going to be 2 guys on the roster, 2 or 3 guys on the roster that the coach is going to look at and say, I don't know why you were playing so much. And there's going to be 2 or 3 guys in the roster that are saying, how come this guy hasn't been out there? I mean,
Totally.
That's just inevitable with scheme and a different set of eyes and all that other stuff.
Absolutely. Well said. Rob King, great stuff. Thank you for taking the time with us as always. I hear the 3 of us will be doing some radio together about 3 weeks from now out at the Combine in Indianapolis. So we'll be looking forward to it. Kinger, we'll talk to you and we'll see you here soon.
Anytime, guys. Always appreciate jumping on. Thanks.
There he goes, voice of your Pittsburgh Steelers and noted local author, Rob King.
Yeah, we should pump that up more often, by the way.
We should. I should have given him
Dale
an
and I
opportunity.
did a better job. Yeah, Door in the Stone.
Door in the Stone. The second, it's a fantasy. If you're a Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings type, fan. It's a fantasy trilogy from Rob King, The Door and the Stone, in the second of the 3-part series, just released.
Available now, yeah.
Within the last week or two, yeah, around bookstores in Pittsburgh, always on Amazon, certainly. As I'm actually, I think probably when we get back from the Combine, going to take some time and read that second book. That's kind of my wheelhouse. Like I'm not a fantasy dork.
Yeah,
but I dabble. Like I do the Star Wars and the Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings,
the new Game of Thrones series,
Game of
last
Thrones
night,
stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I'm into all that, certainly. So thanks to Rob King for the time as always. When we return, let's turn our eyes to some Combine conversation, some draft conversation. The Senior Bowl in the books. Let's talk about some risers after this past weekend, and we will start to look at some mock drafts as well, too. All that and more as we roll along. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Final segment of the first hour. We're going to start turning our attentions to the draft and to mock drafts and all those things more and more. The closer we get to the Combine,
love it.
The closer, obviously, we get to the end of April and the 2026 NFL Draft, which takes place.
Combine's 3 weeks away?
3 weeks from
3
weeks from actually 3 weeks from about right now.
Okay.
We'll probably be landing
Monday,
in Indianapolis. Drive out. I mean, I say landing. That makes it sound like we're flying. But
Monday we drive out though.
We'll all be caravanning together. You and I. I know Rob's doing on-air stuff with us. I know Mike Pursuita's doing on-air stuff with us, and I think Max Starks as well too. So I think it'll be
Max is usually there. Yeah,
I think it'll be the 5 of us. Plus, we'll have Tyler with us doing video stuff and producing stuff.
We'll always grab great guests too.
Awesome.
The guests are one of the best parts of the Combine.
Certainly one of the best parts, and we'll have a lot of fun those 4 days broadcasting there on Radio Row inside the Indianapolis Convention Center, and what's become one of our favorite traditions.
Oh, yeah, I love that week.
Of all the stuff we do here on SNR and the Steelers Audio Network. Matt, before we jump into some of that stuff, though, some more news of the day that I wanted to get to that we didn't get to in the first segment, but is certainly pertinent. Before we get back to the Steelers real quick, according to Adam Schefter, the Ravens are hiring Anthony Weaver as their defensive coordinator. We know he was on the short list of candidates with formal interviews by the Steelers. He was considered for the head coaching job here. Now the Steelers will face him twice a year, as it sounds like he's joining Jesse Mentor's staff there in Baltimore.
Yeah, in a weird way, Harbaugh leaves, but they bring back a lot of Raven-esque guys.
Again, 1 degree of separation. Like
exactly,
you were just
1 degree of separation, right? And it's still the same front office and all those things. But Weaver seemed like a very valid coaching candidate for head jobs this year. He maybe a year from now, he can have a successful season there. He throws hat back in the ring. Good reputation. Steelers were apparently interested too. So it sounds like a good hire for the Ravens.
It does.
Yeah.
I think it's a good hire for the Ravens. I'll be interested to see, because obviously we know their head coach, Jesse Mentor, is a defensive guy. So what's that kind of relationship with him and Weaver look like? But yeah, I think it'll be a very interesting kind of storyline as long as he's in Baltimore, of this guy who was a finalist for the Steelers head coaching job, now being the DC for your biggest rival. That it's always like those organizations are kind of in lockstep together.
He was in Miami last year, and they hired a defensive guy, and they hired a defense coordinator today too. So there wasn't a spot for him to go back. But if I were him, I'd rather be with the Ravens.
Yeah, I certainly,
no question.
As much as we don't like those guys,
right?
We respect those guys of that organization, certainly. And then also, Matt, some more official staff announcements by the Steelers.
Yeah,
here this afternoon. They have named Jason Simmons defensive pass game coordinator and defensive backs coach.
Okay.
Scott McCurley, familiar name, inside linebackers coach. We talked about him, and he was on staff previously. And I'm going to do my best not to butcher this guy's name. Steve, I believe it's Scarnecchia is how he pronounces his last name, as the chief of staff for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So 3 official additional hires.
Couple things. McCurley we mentioned.
Yes.
We've talked about him quite a bit. But I did want to talk a little bit more about keeping him and Tom Arth.
Sure.
The carryover.
Sure.
And we get to the other guys in a minute. But I think there's a lot of value in just think about it. Like, okay, the new defensive staff gets together, or the new offensive staff gets together, and you start watching last year's tape. And man, what were they thinking here?
What was the game plan? What was the call?
Right.
What was the thought process?
And Arth will be like, wow, our left tackle has a bad ankle, so we're, like this was, whether it worked or not, this is at least the way we saw things going into New York or Baltimore or whatever, as opposed to, man, I don't understand what they're doing here, or, they don't leave the cliff notes behind for you, So I do think having a conduit on both sides of the ball to, this is what we thought of James Pierre. This is what we thought of this player, let alone game to game or situation to situation.
Absolutely.
This is why we did it, whether it worked or not. At least it was our logic. Is Scarnecchia related to Dante?
Well, that's a good question. I'm sure I can find that out
In the
for
meantime,
you here pretty quickly.
Simmons played. People may remember him. He was a defensive back with the Steelers. So, a couple people on Twitter asked me, why would
Dante's son?
Dante's son. Okay, I mean, Dad's a legend. Dad's a true Hall of Fame position coach. Big reason why the Patriots were what they are. So I don't know if son's anything like him or not.
Dad was a 5-time Super Bowl champion with the Patriots.
Yes,
and is in their Hall of Honor.
And yes, I mean, if there was a wing for offensive line Hall of Fame coaches, Dad would be on it. So
he was with the Patriots from '82 until 2019 in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, he coached.
Good Lord,
like Steve Grogan and John.
Yeah.
I mean, so he was a fixture. So that's when I heard the last name, I'm like, I wonder. There's not, there's a lot of nepotism, or a lot of the same names.
That's also not a name. It's not Williamson. That's not a last name you see all the time.
Exactly. With these Kubiaks and LaFleur's getting hired, and it's like, I bet there's some connection here. Yeah.
Yep.
Which I'm cool with.
There sure is.
Last thing, as of Simmons, I think it's just there's a little bit of a pecking order, and not every assistant coach gets paid the same. Not everyone has the same assignments. Generally speaking, like a running back coach or a tight end coach isn't as revered on the ladder as a quarterback coach.
Sure.
So I think when you put pass game coordinator there with him, kind of shows a sign respect, probably a pay grade above.
Sure. Additional title, that
additional
kind of
title,
thing. Yeah.
Right. I have no idea what his responsibility is going to be compared to McCurley's or whoever on game day, but I'm sure it'll be greater,
Yes, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So that's what we know. Official announcement of a trio of new staff members by the Steelers, and then a familiar name that we've discussed plenty, Anthony Weaver, headed to division rival Baltimore.
I want to do some more snooping. What is a chief of staff, though?
It's a good question. My wife's that at her company. Yeah. So I could.
Oh, really?
Should
Probably
we
the same.
Nathan, call up my wife Morgan real quick, and
our next guest.
Let's get her. I mean, chief of staff is. It sounds funny, but you're kind
I just have not heard that on a NFL coaching staff.
I haven't
before.
heard.
Right.
That's normally what you get with a big business, like
right.
a corporation.
I've heard them. Yeah.
In the government, type thing. But senior level strategic partner to a CEO, executive, or leader.
Is he just right-hand man to McCarthy then?
Acting to manage high-level initiatives, streamline operations, and enhance productivity. Geez, my wife has a fancy title. I didn't even. Maybe I should congratulate her on. I should give her some props on that or something. But yeah, it is. I think
he must have been around for a while because his dad's got to be 80 by now. I mean, he was coaching in 1982. Okay,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's probably my age.
Honestly. I think it is a greater executive assistant almost, if that makes sense.
That's what I was assuming.
It's like a CEO's right-hand person.
Do we know if he's offensive or defensive, or is he just? I don't think it designated.
Yeah, it did not really. Okay. It did not really designate. He's entering his 17th season in the NFL, his 6th in the role of chief of staff. He spent the last 2 seasons as the chief of staff for the Atlanta Falcons, the previous 3 seasons as the chief of staff with the New York Jets. Mm-hmm. He was also assistant head coach with the Falcons from 2015 to 2020.
Okay. So he sounds well-rounded for both sides of the ball.
Sounds like his job responsibilities are coordinating the team's daily meetings and practice schedule, overall football activities calendar, establishing a budget for football operations, scheduling practice, organized team and staff events.
Adds up. Yep.
So, yeah. So he's kind of a business hand of the head coach almost, it sounds like.
I think
operations
I brought this up
hand.
a couple days ago, or late last week, that I'm not saying it's a weakness of McCarthy, but he's not as interested in doing the practice schedules and that kind of stuff as some other head coaches.
Everyone's different.
Everyone's different, right? So he probably needed this type of guy to sort of day-to-day operations and things like that. You know, like when the special teams coach, we need more time in practice. Well, I'm not going to take it from the run game. I'll figure it out. Or you don't get it. You know, we only get 2 hours.
It's the same kind of conversation that we've had around Omar Khan and Andy Weidel.
And
how they work together, but in different roles.
It's not the same as Kevin was.
One's your
right.
left hand, one's your right hand.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of a similar.
There's just only so many hours in the day. Yeah, right.
And a lot of times too, you don't want your head coach dealing with kind of the pedantic details of the day-to-day. You want them to be
Some people love it.
Some people love it.
Belichick wants to know what's for lunch and right. Strength and conditioning and all that stuff, right.
Other people, they just want to focus on the scheme and the players and the talent evaluation and development and that type of thing.
I'm going to hand her off to someone that does it better than me. You know, right.
And you could
That's why I stopped fixing things around my house, because I just break them more, right.
There's certain things, Matt, around the house that I know if something breaks or needs worked on, I can handle it.
Yeah.
There's other things.
I did fix a busted pipe, though, this week. All by myself. Well, it was some instruction, but I did it.
God
I did it. Yeah.
God bless you. Exactly. If I need to cut the grass or do some landscaping or anything like that, I can do that. If I need to put a new roof on my house, I'm calling somebody else. You know,
it's going to leak. Yeah.
Knowing what you can do and knowing what you can't handle. Funny story for you in that regard. A few summers ago, I've got like gardens in our backyard. I think nothing insane, but I do tomatoes and peppers and lettuce.
You love to go pick something fresh and
that West Virginia farm boy in me is still deep down in there somewhere. And there's nothing better than grabbing a tomato out of your backyard and frying up some bacon and the tomato and lettuce and a nice BLT in the summertime. My outside hose, like the faucet on it, busted a couple summers ago. And I posted a quick 15-second video of it on Twitter. And I was like, can any real blue-collar man out there tell me, is this an easy fix or do I need some real help? 10 minutes later, my phone rings and it's Max Starks.
Oh, wow.
And he goes, I saw your tweet. I know exactly what's wrong. You got to do this, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Because Max, I guess his dad and his uncle did a bunch of building houses and home improvement, handyman type stuff when he was growing up.
Yeah.
So he went on a lot of jobs with his dad and his uncle and was like, it's just the top of your thing's busted. If you take it into any hardware store, they'll be able to tell you what to get. $12 and you can replace it yourself. Don't call somebody. They're going to charge you. They're going to charge you $100. So you got to know what you can handle and where it's best to pass things on elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a lot of sense.
So having Chief of staff. Okay. Makes sense in this instance, for sure. Okay. And it sounds like he's done plenty of it.
And it sounds like he has done plenty of it. And then, like you mentioned, I like the idea of having someone like McCurley, who speaks the language on defense of what they were trying to do, Tom Arth of what they were trying to do. That's a very
valuable,
interesting point to you by you. Yeah, it's the whole kind of learn to think as those around you think. Mm-hmm. This isn't quite that, but it's
we thought we could play man coverage against Jamar Chase all day. We were wrong.
learn to think is those you're taking over for thought.
Yeah.
Which
you can learn from their mistakes too. Have someone to interpret the tape. We're sitting here watching all 22 together. It's silent tape in a dark room. What are they thinking here? Well, there's no captions on it. There's no commentator. Scott,
they didn't leave spark notes from last year.
Right. Scott, what was the logic behind this? And we're like, well, our linebackers were hurt or blah, blah, blah,
Yep, that's exactly right. So, I mean, other than that, some of the stuff we've touched on, the reports are everywhere that the Raiders are expected to hire Kubiak as their head coach.
Same with the Cardinals. With
Clint
LaFleur.
Kubiak, Seattle's offensive coordinator after the Super Bowl. Same with the Cardinals with LaFleur. Other than that, I don't know. I think that about covers.
There are a lot of coordinator moves.
So Raheem Morris is going to the 49ers to replace Robert Saleh, which is, I think, a nice hire for them.
That's one of the bigger name moves.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's 21 offensive coordinator changes.
That's
10
crazy.
Head coaches.
That's crazy.
We went through it today. I mean, you might even find it interesting. Mike Clay put a spreadsheet together today of every team's head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, GM, and there's only 6 teams that didn't make a change. It's like Carolina, Texas. They were all in the South almost. Jacksonville, Houston, Indy, Cincy, Carolina,
That's
and
crazy.
that was about it. That didn't make a change at one of those 4 spots.
Big off season of change in the NFL. We also found out today that the Saints will play the NFL's first game in France, in Paris this season.
Yes.
Which, for those of you keeping track at home, the Steelers are scheduled to play New Orleans away this year, Matt. Now,
okay.
I don't think
I'd be shocked if they go back to back.
I would be shocked if they put the Steelers back to back.
Yeah.
But it's
they're possible.
Certainly possible.
Yeah,
the Saints, that will be one of the home games, quote unquote, for New Orleans.
For New Orleans.
And the Steelers are scheduled to be one of those games. So it's
in Paris?
It's in Paris, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Paris.
And it's kind of like the Steelers. I mean, there was a Steeler-Ireland connection.
There's a
New Orleans
and France.
These aren't accidents, right?
Absolutely.
They're trying to get a fan base
the Fleur de Lis,
yes,
right? Their
right?
logo. I think that's what it's called. I want to say
better than I would have got it.
That's close enough. We'll leave it there for now.
French Quarter.
The French Quarter.
Yeah.
There's a lot of direct ties between New Orleans and France. And yes, the Saints will play the NFL's first ever game in France, in Paris, in 2026, this upcoming fall. Hour in the books, another hour to go. On the other side, we will talk Senior Bowl, some Mock Draft Monday stuff. We will continue to dig deeper and deeper into this upcoming draft class here in hour number 2. Uhler, Williamson, halfway home. It's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Good evening, Steeler Nation. How we doing? Well, that's good. Us too. Hour number 2 here of The Drive on a Monday. And let's do a little Mock Draft Monday.
All right.
You and Tyler were laughing at me. I mean, I know that that's about as cheesy can get, okay? But it rolls off the tongue nicely. And
I've used it many times over the years.
We've gotten some tweets from people like, when are the mock drafts coming and all that stuff? And we'll get more firmly entrenched into like actually going through the simulators and stuff. I
just don't know enough players. I mean, you get to the 4th round and stuff. Sometimes Dale and I would do it too early because I'd be like, is there any safeties? I don't know any of the names, but like the safety would be nice here.
You and I could do a first round mock draft pretty easily now, but I think
probably 2 rounds wouldn't be a problem.
And we'll do that at some point, maybe once or twice before we get to the draft. But more so, bigger picture, Senior Bowl risers, draft related conversation. We could take a look over some of these post Senior Bowl mock drafts here.
I think the Senior Bowl riser stuff's pretty topical.
I do too, and I know
stuff,
I know you spent some time watching practices and doing some
reading
scouting
everything I can
and
watching everything I can. And
any names that stand out anywhere in particular there that you want to start?
No, but I was impressed across the board. Maybe Nussmeier's the best.
I was going to say you want to start with Nussmeier, who I think
he's kind of back to being what we thought he was a year ago.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I think of all the quarterbacks, he had himself the best weekend.
Yes.
And it's important to remember there were a few quarterbacks who were not, full participants, if you will, because of injury-related things.
Right.
So it's not like...
There wasn't a terrible group of quarterbacks either.
But it was not.
They all had something that you kind of like, except for, I'd say, Pavia.
Except for Pavia, I think, which... Again, he's just kind of is what it is. He's a good college football quarterback who just has natural limitations as it relates to the NFL game.
But people don't understand the Nussmeier situation. So he's going to come up a lot with the Steelers, probably as like a day 2 guy, maybe even round 2. And McCarthy and his dad have serious ties. Steelers are taking people off the Saints staff. His dad's on the Saints staff. I mean, like, a lot of people are going to know a ton about this dude. Obviously, there's a need. A year ago, or before the season, many of the experts thought he was very much in not only in the first round mix, but maybe top 10 type of guy.
Absolutely.
Maybe his first quarterback off the board. And not to explain it away, but it sure does explain it away. He had a pretty major core ab injury that he played. He's a tough guy. He played all the way through it. And I guess this past week in Mobile, he addressed it more as opposed to during the season. He did the typical, I'm fine. Yeah. But he wasn't close to fine.
Yeah.
And not only could he not like torque his body or, really generate the same power and balance and strength, that your core is needed, but he also developed bad habits in order just to get the football any way he could. Like all the fundamentals went out the window. And by all accounts, Senior Bowl, he looked more like the guy pre-injury. Like he realized I was just trying to get my team to win.
Absolutely.
As these guys do. So.
And a team that was struggling, a team that had a poor offensive line, a team that fired.
He was getting beat up.
Fired its head coach halfway through the season, and Brian Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a great situation around him, and he was dealing with that injury stuff. And so I think there's a lot to deduce from. You have to take this year with a grain of salt for him.
Yeah.
And that certainly doesn't mean still that he's worthy of a top 10, top 15 pick.
No.
But I also don't think you should be looking at him and be like, he stinks, he's garbage, he's terrible. I wouldn't touch him until the 6th round.
Did you watch him this year again, week 8? Like, well, yeah, that's not who you're getting, though.
Yeah. Wasn't the best day for Sawyer Robinson, who we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he struggled. He threw an interception. But North Dakota State's Cole Payton.
It was very windy, too. People should know, very windy.
It was not good weather down there in Mobile, Alabama, where it typically is this time of year.
It can be a crapshoot. I've been down there a fair amount, but this was uncommonly cold, and really windy on game day.
But Cole Payton out of North Dakota State had himself a good set.
I think he made money this week. I think he definitely made money this week.
Absolutely. It's funny to me because Nussmeier won Senior Bowl MVP, but then they also do offensive and defensive MVPs.
Right, and the quarterbacks only play like a quarter.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And so Cole Payton won offensive MVP.
Did he? Okay.
Even though Nussmeier won Senior Bowl MVP, but still, he had a couple big completions. He had a 19-yard run.
No, he's got tools and he can move. Yeah.
He's starting to move up the list a little bit. And then we saw a little bit of Taylon Green, who's still intriguing to me.
Boy, he's eat up space with his strides, though. I mean, he's every bit of 6'6".
He's massive.
And he has long limbs, and like a lot of these guys will be like 2 strides for every 5 yards, give or take. He's like 4 yards a stride. I mean, just when he opens it up, it's like, whoa. And he didn't rely on that. Sometimes these really athletic quarterbacks will go down there, be like, well, I'll just run and look good, But he hung in the pocket all week and has some issues, but there's few people walking the planet that have what he has. Doesn't mean he's going to be a hit.
He just body type and everything reminds me of Cam Newton. When he gets going.
You mentioned the Milton one
at his
last
size.
week too. Yeah.
I'm not like comping him to Cam Newton.
Right, Cam Newton's first pick in the draft.
Yes.
And stronger.
But just the running ability and the body frame, and when those guys get striding and you get them into any open space at all, and they're dangerous.
2-3 steps, they get a first down.
Right.
Right.
I bet you he could dunk a basketball very, very easily.
So the quarterbacks, I think, across the board were successful.
I think so too. So too. And you know what? Somebody who, you can never accuse me of being a homer. Somebody that we have to discuss is Kyle Lewis out of Pitt.
He's really impressive.
He's very intriguing to me.
Yes.
Because, I mean, being a college football junkie from this area, backyard brawl the last few years, man, he was an outstanding college football player.
He was.
Really good linebacker. And he had himself a outstanding, just all the practices, everything. Senior Bowl week. The only thing, though, is I don't think he's going to play linebacker in the NFL. He just is too small.
Right.
How do you feel about those hybrid guys, the linebackers who transition to safety?
Well, now's the time to do it. I mean, years ago, you'd be a tweener, you end up going to the 6th round. I don't know what to do with you, a special teamer. So even like all my Pitt buddies, I asked them going into the Senior Bowl, tell me about him. They're like, he's a stud, he makes tons of plays, but he's going to be too small.
I don't think he could play linebacker in the NFL.
He was heavier than I thought. I think he was like 220, 222, something like that, I'm guessing. They implied that he'd be like 208.
Well, maybe he plays at,
Yeah. I mean, he's going to
210.
And they folks, if you're new to the show, they'll manipulate their height, their weight, not their heights, their weights for the combine and
or some of these big offensive linemen that you're like, he might be too heavy. They'll come into the combine 10, 15 pounds lighter, but
that's not what they play at.
As soon as March rolls around, they'll put that weight back on.
Or they cut the run and then then they bulk back up for their pro day so they look good. So there is some manipulation involved. But what he needs to prove to people, which I don't know if he has yet or not, but at least he's taking the right steps, is can he be the Enuari type? Playmaker-wise, yes. Speed, athleticism, it seems, yes. Now, that's high praise. I mean, I've watched more Enuari lately.
You're a big fan.
Well, and they're on the Super Bowl. And, I mean, he's a pivotal player for them. Like, in that game against the Rams, they left him in man coverage against Devontae Adams. That's asking a lot for a dude that was a linebacker at Pitt last year.
Totally.
But I think he's a second-rounder all day long. I mean, somehow they'll use him in some way, shape, or form. And he wouldn't be the smallest linebacker in the league either. Maybe he's not every down guy. Maybe he's a dime linebacker. Maybe he's like an overhang guy. But if he can prove to be the big slot that everybody wants, he looks like this year's version, if there is one. They don't grow on trees.
He's going to be very interesting to where he ends up.
But boy, he showed up down there a ton.
Oh, in some of those one-on-one drills, he looked really good in coverage, which that's going to help his case in terms of making that transition to the secondary.
Those one-on-one drills are so hard on linebackers too. Like you got to cover the whole field.
You got 20 acres of space to cover a tight end or a wide receiver.
I think Daniel Jeremiah when I was watching the broadcast, made the comparison. It's like a soccer goalie in a penalty shot.
Yeah.
I'm just going to dive left and hope I'm right.
That's a great. Like, I
don't know if this guy's going left or right.
Even if you guess right, you still only have like a 50% chance.
Doesn't mean making the save or getting a PBU or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
And then kind of last Senior Bowl specific thing that I wanted to throw at you, Matt, unless you had anything for me too. I like this interior. I'm starting to like this interior defensive line class.
Yeah, there's some
and
good
I know
ones.
we've talked about some of these guys or some of identifying a person like that for the Steelers defensive line group. Man, Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. He's probably going to be a first-round pick.
I think he's probably a first-rounder.
A little too rich.
Right.
But Bryson Eason from Tennessee, I thought was really, one of those guys that seems like he could be a top 100 pick in that range of where the Steelers have 5 selections.
He made money for himself this week.
I think, hey, round 1, quarterback, wide receiver, something in that, that nature. But soon after that, I'm starting to warm up to these defensive linemen in this class too.
Yeah, me too. I think there's quite a few of them. The Michigan dude looked really good. The Florida kid looked really good. Both of them have a lot of ability, especially the Florida guy. He's one of these dudes that needs to keep his pads down rep after rep, but when he's right, it's a wow factor. So it wouldn't shock me.
Caleb Banks is his name. Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me if the Steelers went big D tackle on day 2 at some point. Remember, they're going to have probably 4 day 2 picks. Why not? I think that makes a ton of sense. Maybe even free agency goes to the point where you consider them the first round. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of convincing to me to take another D tackle. I'm always going to be greedy there. There was a lot of good receivers. Small school kids.
The guy from John Carroll. Yeah,
South
Tyron
Carolina
Montgomery.
State. Yep. They have some crazy backgrounds.
If
the Notre Dame kid's really good.
If Montgomery gets drafted, he will be the first Division III wide receiver to be drafted since Pierre Garçon in 2008.
Okay. And he's going to get drafted. I mean, he's going to go in the mid-rounds.
I think he will.
Yeah.
I think he will. And
there was a lot. It's a really good receiver class.
I like those mid-round receivers too. Virgil out of Texas Tech, Ted Hurst out of Georgia State.
Yeah.
I think there's some
Georgia
real
State. I call it South Carolina.
Some real options there, and that's what we want this time of year. You want more options on the board. You want the positions of need to feel like they're getting deeper.
Yeah, just get more and more names in the hat that I didn't know about. That's the way I look at it.
I feel better about quarterback. I feel better about wide receiver. I feel better about defensive line.
Yes,
in kind of the post Senior Bowl haste here, if you will.
A couple of them one of them was centers, the Kansas dude, but. There was a handful of offensive linemen like, ooh, I wouldn't mind working with him either. The kid from Arizona State whose name's hard to say is
Max something, I think is his. Yeah, his last name is
such a ball of clay that I would love to work with for, maybe plays guard for a year and then he's your left tackle. Who knows? But I'd love to get a hold of him. But he's going like top 50.
You need some of those guys with the lack of second round pick. Last year, weren't able to supplement that offensive line.
Yeah,
I seriously doubt with 13 picks this year that will be the case once again.
No, they'll draft at least one.
Real quick, shout out to TV, but it does sound like the Browns are being pegged to play the Saints in that game in Paris.
Not exactly a barn burner event.
We are not sending our best and our finest over there to Paris. Maybe we're doing that on purpose.
You mentioned just a break. That's 2 years in a row that they'll be heading overseas. That's kind of
an
crazy.
Away game for the Browns too, I believe. Correct? Because wasn't there one against?
It'll be the same as the Steelers. So it was home then. They'll be away next year.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah.
But they did London last year. The Browns did. Now they're off to Paris. They're just doing a little European tour, little Olympic tour there for the all the past Olympic cities that they're checking out there, the Cleveland Browns. But so sounds like that is off. Sounds like that's going to be in late October, and it will be the Browns heading on the road to face the Saints. Matt, more draft conversation. We got to have that explosive play differential conversation as we roll along here.
Telling, yeah.
So we have got plenty to do. More T's to cross and I's to dot before we get out of here in hour number 2 on The Drive. Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. I got to tell you, Matt, this stuff happens quickly, but just like a few Senior Bowl conversations and draft-related topics, and I'm ready for the combine, man.
Oh, yeah.
I
Just want to learn more and more about these guys. Right?
Absolutely, and especially now with just the backdrop of a new Steelers era, because we knew
what are they going to be looking for? You know, right?
we knew so much about how the previous regime operated, learning how to think as those around you think.
Yeah.
But now you can put all that to rest, wipe that slate clean, and here we go for a new regime. It's going to be a lot of fun here these following weeks and months.
It'll be a fun mixing the new needs and desires of the schemes and coaches with the ways that won't change. You know, like we still know character and leadership and things that are the front office and ownership value are going to be as important when they're scouting players too, and that type of thing. But now you need more receivers. Now you need, different. Are they going to be more in the market for one of those big slots like we just talked about? Maybe this defense will. I don't know.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of what if because we don't know. And we're going to get closer and closer to kind of piecing the whole thing together as we roll along here. Matt, with that, I thought we would take a look. Matt Miller of ESPN.
Yeah.
He was down at the Senior Bowl, and he did a 2-round post-Senior Bowl pre-combine mock draft. I thought it would be fun to roll through this.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, we don't need to spend a ton of time on all these names, like especially, hey, spoiler alert, he's got Mendoza going first overall to the Raiders. I don't think that takes a lot of discussion or debate at this point. But let's see, take a look here on this Mock Draft Monday at kind of some post-Senior Bowl thoughts here as we roll into the month of February. Mendoza, number 1 to the Raiders, no shocker. Arvell Reese, continuing to see him pop up at number 2 to the Jets.
I don't know if that'll be chalky, but I think it could be pretty common.
You think
in the mock world,
by the time we get to April, that's like 90% of people are mocking Reese.
Because I don't think they need a tackle, so give me best defensive player available type thing, and I think that's him.
If the quarterback of the future isn't there at pick 2, which we don't think it is.
I can't imagine Simpson or Nussmeier or somebody like that gaining enough steam to get that high in the draft.
As we've mentioned a few times when we've talked about the Jets, offensive line feels like one of the few strengths that they actually have for them on that. They've got some nice young ascending pieces there. Go and get your playmaker on defense. I think
that's a good start.
Makes
and you got a ton of other picks too.
That makes a lot of sense. Cardinals at 3, Francis Maiaga, offensive tackle out of Miami, out of the U.
I don't know if that'll be chalky or not, but it wouldn't shock me if it's pretty common because Paris Johnson, the left tackle.
I was going to say
there's other tackle prospects, but if you really think about it, I would rather have Maiaga for the Cardinals.
Put him on the right side.
For the right, because he's much more of a
big
right.
and physical, and there's some Penei Sewell vibes there.
And he played right at the U.
Yes.
So,
Yes. I think that makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah.
First one that kind of was like, ooh, number 4, Tennessee Titans, 4th overall, Reuben Bain Jr., the edge rusher out of Miami.
They could use it, but that'd be a good D-line.
I think he's a top 10 pick without a doubt.
Yeah, I do
but
too.
4 is probably the highest I've seen him mocked so far.
I've seen him once. Someone put him to the Jets at 2 once.
Okay.
And I thought, boy, that's pretty crazy. But, I mean, this could be the neighborhood he starts to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I just wondered if the Titans there at pick 4, you've got your choice basically of any wide receiver.
I'd say the receivers would be interesting.
Yeah. Where at pick 5, they have Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio State, as the first wide receiver to come off the board to the Giants. Man, if you paired him with Neighbors, that would be a really nice 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I'm all for that for the Giants. If you're trying to make Dart's life as easy as possible, give him one more playmaker than you really need, and that would be it.
Number 6, the Cleveland Browns. I know that this would be music to Matt's ears. The Browns finally addressed the trenches,
something
they failed to do last year. They take Spencer Fanu out of Utah, the tackle. Versatility. He played both left and right as a 3-year starter.
I don't know how they can't do that.
I think of all the, aside from the, I think Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs have 0.001% bust potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to be perennial All-Pro future Hall of Famers.
Right, but I bet they won't stink.
But I think at worst they're going to be like B+. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing that I told you about Zach Frazier.
Yeah.
I don't know how great this guy can be, but I'm very confident he's going to play for 10 years and have a really nice NFL career.
Yes.
Aside of those 2 Ohio State defenders, Fanu might be the one that I think is the safest bet.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like, I think he's going to be, at worst, a B+ offensive tackle for a decade.
Which in this draft, it's not real top heavy. You take that all day long at 5, 6, 7 in this neighborhood.
And speaking of Caleb Downs, they have him going 7th overall to the Commanders.
Wow. That's early. It's as early as you'll see a safety go. But in this class, that's another team that doesn't probably need tackle. Edge would make some sense.
They need somebody on defense. They just need a playmaker on defense. Like Arvell Reese would be perfect for them there, but I don't think he's lasting until pick 7.
I can't imagine he gets past the Titans.
Number 8, the New Orleans Saints select Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame.
You see him go here or to the Chiefs.
To the Chiefs.
Next pick a lot.
Yep.
And he might be the best player in the draft.
He very well could be. He's another one of those, I think. And running
He's
backs,
going to be good.
Running backs are a different conversation because their career life, their shelf life isn't as long as other positions, but I think he's going to be good.
A huge key here that a new way I think people should and are starting to value the running backs is explosives. If I can give it to a back that can generate his own explosive, he's worth a lot more than modern-day Jerome Bettis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That style.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Reggie Bush would be a little more valuable now than then. You know, like the running back doesn't matter thing. But if explosives are the only thing that matters.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah. If I can get a guy that can create his own explosives, like Walker's been doing for Seattle, you know.
Number 9, the Kansas City Chiefs select David Bailey, the other of the top 10 edge picks out of Texas Tech.
They've dabbled with first-round picks at edge over and over, but they're always heavier run stuffer types. This guy's an edge bender. He's a go get him sack guy. He, Matt, tied for the lead in sacks in college football last year. Yeah.
And their last game of the season in Morgantown against WVU, I think he played the first series, and that was it.
Oh, so he probably could have got
because it was like they were up 14-0 in about 10 seconds on the Mountaineers, and it was like, okay, we got the Big 12 championship game next week. It's some bigger fish to fry, and I think he was listed with like a something rib or something that week. 14.5 sacks in 11 games for him, basically pretty good. Bengals at pick number 10. They go Mansour Delaney, the corner out of LSU.
Oh, no. I've got him confused.
I've seen him top 10. I've seen him in the 20s.
People love him.
He's an interesting one.
Yeah. Some of the corners need to kind of shape. I mean, we showed a lot of time, but the pecking order of the top 3 or 4 corners seems to be kind of up in the air. Yeah.
Dolphins at 11 go with another one of those corners, Jermad McCoy out of Tennessee, who didn't play this entire past year because of an ACL injury.
So he's kind of mucking up that process too, because people just don't quite know what he is.
His freshman year was very impressive. His sophomore year, he might have been the best corner in the SEC, but was obviously not draft eligible. Then this past year tears his ACL early in the process. But
Tennessee could have 2 first-round corners.
They could.
The one Senior Bowl was quite good too.
His 2024 tape is crazy impressive. So how much will they, lean on that versus coming off the injury?
I just know how this works. I don't know what his timeline is, but if he can show at the combine that he's not a medical reject in any way, does all the drills, looks good. Maybe he's even like, it's a 3rd overall pick. They grab the best corner in the draft. Right.
Yes. Jamar Chase and Micah Parsons. Now, they weren't injury related; they were COVID related, but they both skipped the year. And Chase went 5th, 3rd.
Parsons went
and
like
Parsons
12
went 11 or 12, something like that. So certainly precedent for it. The Cowboys at 12, they take Sonny Styles, the off-ball linebacker from Ohio State.
People love this guy too. He's another one.
Dynamic, man.
Be shocked if he busts as well.
Same.
There's a lot of off-the-ball linebackers.
You've mentioned that before, how this is a strong class in that regard.
I could see 3 or 4 in the first round.
Speaking of the 2 first-round corners from Tennessee, the Rams at pick 13. Remember, that's the Atlanta Falcons pick that they own. They select Colton Hood, the other talented defensive back from the Vols there. 14, the Ravens in their new era select Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State, who I really like.
That'd be pretty good value, too.
That'd be pretty good value.
It's an underrated need for them, because I don't think they're going to be as tight end-centric as people think, and it's Flowers and Bateman's hard to count on. Yeah, big-bodied receiver.
It'd be a nice, if Lamar is kind of looking around at maybe some potential other opportunities, that'd be a nice
somebody, right?
Hey, the grass is still green here. Look at this shiny wide receiver toy we got.
Throw it up to this guy.
Another cornerback goes off the board at 15 to the Bucs. Brandon Cisse out of South Carolina.
That's the earliest I've seen him go.
Yep, that's the earliest I've seen him go to. He's a first-round mock guy. There could be 4 or 5 corners taken in the first round, and we know that's a position of need.
It is for Tampa, for
pretty
sure.
much around the NFL, and definitely for Tampa. 16, third wide receiver off the board. Malachi Lemon from USC goes to the Jets there. That's the Sauce Gardner pick for New York. 17, third edge rusher off the board. Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. He's the, I think, perennial third edge rusher on everybody's big boards.
Yeah, I think that's safe.
I think he'll be a top 20-ish pick.
Body beautiful, yeah.
6'6", like 280, 290. He's the edge rusher you create in Madden when you're creating a pro. 18,
coaches will fall in love with him the next month or two, too. 18,
Minnesota Vikings, second safety, nickel slot, hybrid type guy, Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo.
Yeah, I need to learn more about him, but right.
It'd also be the second time in 3 years that Toledo has had a defensive back drafted in the first round.
Yeah, Mitchell did really
Mitchell 2 years ago and has been outstanding.
No, most guys have this guy as a first rounder.
First interior offensive lineman to go off the board, Carolina Panthers at 19 take Ione is his last name. His first name is a mouthful.
Penn State.
Oliva Vega, I believe is how he pronounces his first name, but he's the Penn State guard. He's the first interior offensive lineman to go off the board at 19. Cowboys go T.J. Parker, edge rusher from Clemson.
He had a good Senior Bowl.
That's the Micah Parsons pick.
Yeah.
He's really good in run defense.
Yes,
man.
He's powerful, yeah.
He's not the pure, get you 17 sacks a season guy, but he's really good at setting that edge and really good at the run game. And another cornerback, Matt, this would be the 4th or the 5th. Avion Terrell, A.J. Terrell's younger brother out of Clemson, mocked to the Steelers at 21.
If they don't do anything with Pierre or Samuel, well, then that's a huge. I mean, as the roster is constructed today, it's a glaring need. I think there's receivers out there I would take ahead of them, all things considered.
I think so too. And hey, if you plug him next to Joey Porter Jr., you could be set at corner for the next.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have that size,
8
speed.
years.
That kind of pedigree would be something that's very desirable.
But you're right. With some wide receivers still on the board, namely Denzel Boston out of Washington, I'd be intrigued.
Concepcion, right.
Yeah. Concepcion. 22. The Chargers take Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida, who you just mentioned in the previous segment.
Okay. There's some inconsistencies, but nasty.
6'6", 340.
Yeah, they need interior help.
There's some Vita Vea comps there. The Eagles go tight end Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. He's
interesting.
I don't think he's quite Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland, but man, he's first round worthy certainly.
I'm a big Goddard fan, but he's been rumored to maybe not be back the last year or two as well, which
he's
I don't
turning
understand.
31, and he's just been pretty banged up as of late.
He has,
but that'd be a nice middle of the field playmaker for that offense for sure. 24, the Cleveland Browns. That's the Jacksonville Jaguars pick from last year. They take Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington.
I mean, O-line's a massive need,
man,
but
if they got
receivers.
Fanu and Denzel Boston with their first 2 picks.
It's a good start.
That's a real good start for them.
I mean, that's how I'd start building the nest.
Another edge rusher, Matt. Zion Young out of Missouri goes 25th to the Bears.
He showed up big this week, too.
The guy who we just discussed, Casey Concepcion, wide receiver out of Texas A&M. He goes to the Buffalo Bills at 26 as they continue to try and find.
Keep taking bites of that apple, right?
It's like we've talked about. You might, like with the quarterback conversation, you might step up to the plate and strike out. You still got to step back up to the plate.
Yeah,
you got to find that wide receiver if you're Buffalo.
You got to put somebody out there.
The other bookend for Utah on the offensive line, Caleb Lomu, he goes 27th overall for the 49ers.
I've heard some people think that he has more upside. He's not as polished as his teammate right now, but he's a little lighter on his feet, a little bit better athlete.
He was the one that started at left tackle for the last 2 years for Utah. So Fanu started at right side, and then his sophomore year, and then senior year. Pardon me, I got that backwards.
Yeah.
Fanu started left side and then finished right, and Lomu was kind of the one on the left side that they left Fanu on the right because of.
He was good enough to make them to have him move, yeah.
And when you 2 first-round tackles, you see why Utah ran for like 240 yards a game and led college football last season. Yeah. Another offensive tackle, Blake Miller out of Clemson. Man, that'd be 3 first-round picks for Clemson. Blake Miller goes 28th to the Houston Texans.
Okay.
29th, the Rams' original pick. Monroe Feeling, another offensive tackle out of Georgia.
Keep an eye on him. here's a prediction.
Is he a riser?
Yeah. When he starts getting his last few games at Georgia were unbelievably good. He was super raw, like a Broderick Jones or a Mims at Georgia. And when it comes combine time, he might be first tackle off the board. Like, remember that name.
Number 30, Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker out of Texas.
Linebacker, yeah.
One of those off-ball linebackers we've discussed goes to the Broncos. 31, Patriots, Seahawks, that's going to flip.
Yeah.
But Patriots, 31, Cassius Howe, edge rusher out of Texas. And, man, that'd be like 6. Is that like 6 or 7 edge dudes in the first round? I mean, I get it. It's a premium position.
Mm-hmm.
And then 32, last but certainly not least, we referenced him in our Senior Bowl conversation a few minutes ago. Malachi Fields, the wide receiver out of Notre Dame.
Cup's up in age and all that. Interior line, it makes sense. But Fields in the first round is the first I've seen people take that jump.
One of the big risers from the Senior Bowl.
Oh, yeah. He people might remember him. He destroyed Pitt in that Pitt Notre Dame.
Yes, he
game.
did.
Destroyed him.
Yes, he did. 7 catches, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
In that game?
At Acrisure Stadium against Pitt, yes. And then into the second round here, Matt, we can just kind of churn through a couple of these. Caden McDonald, the defensive tackle from Ohio State, leads the way to the Jets. Another wide receiver, Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama, goes to the Cardinals. A lot of receivers to pick from. Caden Proctor, the big offensive tackle, as we've discussed, from Alabama. He goes to the Titans at 35. Akeem Messidor, another one of these edge guys that we've discussed, out of Miami. Former West Virginia Mountaineer before he got the bag to head to South Beach. It's a good place to go if you're getting a bag, I hear.
Not a bad deal.
He goes to the Raiders, 36th. D'Angelo Pons, the corner out of Indiana. Just a pure playmaker, man. He's short, but he is just a playmaker. 37th to the Giants. Dylan Theneman, the safety out of Oregon. Remember, we talked a lot about how Oregon could be much better next year.
Yeah.
And how there might only be 1 or 2 first-round picks on that Oregon roster. He was one of the other ones that we potentially discussed.
Yeah, a lot of people have him top 50.
He is one of those hybrid types that we've discussed that NFL defenses love nowadays. They've got him going 38th overall to the Texans. Browns go Jake Galladay, Cincinnati linebacker, to pair with Carson Schlesinger, another.
And Bush is a free agent.
And Bush is a free agent, and he could get a nice payday somewhere after the season that he had. Chiefs go Kamari Ramsey, safety out of USC, at 40th overall. So they have the Chiefs going defense with their first 2 picks here. Peter Woods, defensive tackle from Clemson. He was a guy who came into the year with a lot of first-round hype.
Tons of buzz, and a lot of those Clemson guys kind of disappointed.
He goes 41st overall to the Bengals. Saints go Antonio Williams, wide receiver out of Clemson, at 42. The Dolphins, another wide receiver, Amari Cooper Jr., national champion at Indiana, goes 43 to Miami. Second quarterback off the board, Matt, all the way at pick 44, Ty Simpson, Alabama. The Jets take him with that's the Quinnen Williams second-round pick from the Cowboys.
Oh, okay. Hey, that's well worth that. At that point, right.
So you know where I'm going with this. If it's pick 43 and the Dolphins are on the board.
You're calling up.
And there's still only Fernando Mendoza off the board. Would that be a conversation you'd be willing to have?
Yes.
For Simpson, or it could be somebody else by the time we get to April.
That's the thing, I just don't know enough about Simpson yet. If there is somebody else that I like enough, for sure. And history shows that it won't be that big a gap. I mean,
I'd be shocked if there's not a second for a Jackson Dart type somewhere in the 20s.
Bad team trades with a playoff team. I mean, it happens all the time.
Happens all the time. But in this post Senior Bowl mock, Ty Simpson QB2, not until pick 40.
He hasn't put any trades in either, which makes sense too.
Yeah. Ravens at 45 go LT Overton, edge rusher out of Alabama. Bucks at 46, C.J. Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. This is about the range I think we'd see a lot of linebackers in this range. R. Mason Thomas, sounds like a law firm, goes 47th, the edge rusher out of Oklahoma to the Colts. He's real quick. He's got some Herbig vibes about him. He's got some Herbig vibes. He's not the biggest frame edge rusher guy, but he is twitchy and quick off the line, man. 48, the Falcons take Eli Stowers, second tight end off the board. He's out of Vanderbilt. Some comps to Harold Fannin for him in this year's draft. Vikings at 49 go Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle out of Texas Tech. that we just discussed. Man, if he lasted that close to pick 50, that would surprise me.
That would surprise me.
I think he's closer to pick 32 than he is to pick 50.
Yes, me too.
But this is not my mock draft. Also, another one that we just talked about a few minutes ago, Max Ianechor, I believe is how he pronounces his last name, but he's the offensive tackle prospect that you're like, man, if I could get him at the right spot.
People start mocking him at the end of the first round. So,
he goes 50th overall to the Lions. Man, that would be a steal for the Lions, whether Taylor Decker retires or you could just kind of have him waiting in the wings. 51, the Panthers take Keith Abney II, cornerback out of Arizona State. Man, feels like a lot of corners and edge rushers here in the first 50 picks, 51 picks or so. 52, Green Bay Packers. They replace, I guess, their Kenny Clark replacement, if you will. Kristen Miller, defensive tackle out of Georgia at pick 52. And then remember, Matt, in this exercise, it was Terrell out of Clemson, the corner to the Steelers at 21. Steelers go and get their wide receiver here, Zachariah Branch, 53rd out of Georgia.
I've seen him mocked to the Steelers in the first round. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of receivers. So that is the argument to maybe wait to the second round if you can get someone that's that high on your board still because it's such a rich position. But
he's 5'10", 180 pounds.
Yeah.
There'd be some peanut butter and jelly with DK Metcalf there. Like, I know you've talked a lot about wanting two big body wide receivers.
Little guys are starting to really fall out of favor in that position right now.
And he's 5'10", $180, but he's that cerebral kind of route runner, separation guy.
And you might have signed one in free agency too.
That's the thing. Maybe you bring in one of those big body guys in free agency. But he had 81 receptions, a little over 800 yards, 6 touchdowns last year at Georgia. I think he's going to test well and going to be one of those names that
I would imagine
that's going to jump
he's also a returner, things like that too.
Into conversation here. Taking a look at the rest of the second round, Matt. A couple more corners and guards go off the board here. First center, Logan Jones, out of Iowa, goes 58th to San Francisco. The other Notre Dame running back, Jadarian Prince, goes 59th to Houston.
Could be the second back off the board, yeah.
Could be the second back, which wouldn't that be crazy if the top 2 running backs off the board were from the same school. A guy that I really like, that I would say is flying under the radar, but he started to pick up some buzz at the Senior Bowl, and I think will only continue to do so. Texas Tech linebacker Jacob Rodriguez.
He makes a million plays.
This dude, Matt, haven't seen a playmaker with a nose for the ball like him in a long time.
I don't think he'll test great, but he makes a million plays.
But just this past season, 1 year alone, 7 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions, scored 3 touchdowns, 2 on defense, 1 on offense. They would actually, he scored, this is how much they used him in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
When they came to Morgantown for that last game of the season, he had a forced fumble, he had a touchdown reception. And he threw an interception in the red zone.
Wow.
So, he was this crazy playmaker on defense that they would use in the red zone at tight end, at like a halfback, wingback type.
Yeah.
He caught a touchdown and they were trying to build up. He was a Heisman finalist. They were trying to build up his resume a little bit. He caught a touchdown, and then 2 drives later threw an interception in the end zone.
That's crazy.
But he's one of those cerebral playmakers who there's a spot for him on defenses in the NFL.
Just watching Senior Bowl practices, he touched the ball as a linebacker 5 or 6 times with a
forced a fumble right away,
interception, tip ball. He was one catching it.
12 games last year, 4 interceptions, 7 forced fumbles, 3 touchdowns as an off-ball not an edge guy,
true off-the-ball guy.
He's an impressive playmaker. More wide receivers off the board. Chris Bell goes to the Broncos. Elijah Surratt goes to the Patriots. And then Seattle, to close it down, tries to hit on their second year in a row finding a guard in this draft. Chase Bistontis out of Texas A&M closes down the second round to slide him next to Gray Zabel on the other side there. Matt, that was a long kind of mock draft Monday segment there.
These names.
Let's close down with some tweets on the other side as we wrap this thing up. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. A quick final segment here today on The Drive to close us down on this Monday. We are going to call a little bit of an audible here, all right? So deal with me. I'm Aaron Rodgers, all right? I'm going to minimize error here at the line of scrimmage. I'm going to check us into something better here as we survey the landscape. Let's save our explosive play differential conversation for tomorrow because we only have, like I said, just a couple minutes here, and I don't want to shortchange that one. Some really good research by Matt that we will get into. I also have a Super Bowl quiz Steelers related that I want to run by with you all and with Matt to kind of some Steelers trivia of past as we get ready. We'll do some fun Super Bowl stuff all throughout the week. One last kind of news and notable here before we close down with some tweets. The Rams have announced some extensions to head coach Sean McVay and GM Les Snead, multi-year extensions for both of those guys. There had been some conversation that maybe Sean McVay wants to take some time off and take a step back. I mean, he's not even 40 years old yet, but he's been coaching in the NFL for close to a decade already. But that is not going to be the case, as Sean McVay has signed an extension in LA with the Rams, as has general manager Les Snead, both multi-year extensions. And Sean McVay stating as well that he is, what's the exact word he used here? He has his fingers crossed that Matt Stafford will return to play next season, hopeful that the quarterback will be back for his 18th season in the NFL. He said he's going to take time to talk to his wife and his girls and see what's best, but man, he is still playing at an incredible level. Our hope is that he does, but with respect to his timetable and ability to communicate with us, we will let him whenever he's ready to make that announcement to be able to do that. He deserves as much time as he needs. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, like you guys, that he still wants to go play. So some significant news there out of the NFC runner-up as the Rams ink McVay and Snead to an extension. And it sounds like they're hopeful and optimistic that Matthew Stafford will be back for one more season, his 18th in the NFL in 2026. All right, let's close down with some tweets. Christopher tweets about the Saints being in Paris and saying, the Steelers are scheduled to hit New Orleans this year. But it is funny. That was the first thing that I thought, too, earlier on the show. But it is being reported, not officially announced by the league, so things can always change, but it is being reported by many credible outlets that it will be the Browns for the second straight year playing a game overseas, taking on the Saints there in New Orleans at the Parc des Princes. Right there in downtown Paris. That's the home of PSG, the big French soccer club, who are actually the reigning European champion. They kind of won the Champions League last year, which is kind of like their equivalent to the Super Bowl. So that'll be a pretty cool first NFL game in France there in Paris at the home of the European soccer champions. Let's see here. Jake tweets and says, one question I'd love to get your perspective on in the slow off-season time is which NFL franchises do you consider to be blue blood marquee franchises? Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Dallas are obvious, but what's the line you draw between marquee and the tier below? That's a good question, Jake. That's a good sitting on the bar stool with your buddies conversation. I think you're right. The big three, and we could sit here and we could argue for hours about what order you want to put them in, but it's the Steelers, it's the Packers, and it's the Cowboys. You look at fan base size, all those different things, success, history, just amount of fans and the attention that they grab from a national perspective. I think those are the big three, and I think San Francisco belongs in that tier too. I would say they're a slight, half step down from those three that I mentioned, but I do think the Niners are closer in kind of the pantheon of NFL history to those three than they are to the next tier below. And then the next tier below, you would have teams like the Green Bay Packers come to mind. The Raiders come to mind. Man, the Patriots probably now too, as much as I hate to say it. Heck, especially if they win on Sunday. Oh, man, I really don't like thinking about that. Those would kind of be the next that I would think would be in the second tier. The Giants, the New York Giants, deserve conversation in that regard too. I think the Giants are definitely in that second group as one of the traditional NFL franchises. That's a good question though, Jake. And those are kind of the first names or first thoughts in my kind of drawing a line there. But I think the big three, definitely Steelers, Packers, Cowboys. I'd throw the Niners in that territory. And then you got, Raiders, Patriots, Bears, Giants, probably as the next group. One last piece of news here before we go today. The Steelers officially too. That sounds weird. The Steelers now officially also announcing the hiring of James Campen as offensive line coach, Jari Evans, the potential future Hall of Famer, as assistant offensive line coach, Ramon Chinyoung Sr. as running backs coach, Adam Henry as wide receivers coach, and, of course, the one that we kind of figured and had speculated on but is now official, Tom Arth staying as quarterbacks coach. So some official significant announcements there for the Steelers. We spent some time talking about James Campen this week. We'll do more so of that tomorrow. Jari Evans as well, too. Remember, he is the outstanding guard who won a Super Bowl with Drew Brees and spent a lot of his career in New Orleans. He's a finalist for the NFL Hall of Fame this year. We will actually get a verdict on that here in just a few days at the NFL Awards. And so those two we had talked a lot about as offensive line and assistant offensive line coach. Ramon Chinyoung Sr. as running backs coach, Adam Henry as wide receivers coach. And that's, officially now official by your Pittsburgh Steelers, as we'll have some more time before tomorrow's show to discuss those things and do some more some Wikipedia scouting and some digging and all that good stuff. But thanks to the guys here, Nathan and Tyler, for bringing that to my attention before we get out of here. We'll get into more of your tweets as we roll along throughout the rest of the week. We will, like I said, have that explosive play differential conversation. That's something Matt and I tracked all throughout the year. And spoiler alert, the two teams that are still playing, the two teams that are still left competing for the Super Bowl this weekend are towards the top of that conversation. So plenty more to get to tomorrow on some new members of the Steelers coaching staff and some numbers behind the success of Seattle and New England. We'll do all that and more when we talk to you about 22 hours from now. So that'll do it for today. Thanks to Nathan, Nate Dogg on the ones and twos, Tyler, Mr. TV on the video side of things, and of course, for Matt Williamson, I'm Wes Uhler. Take care, everybody, and we will talk to you tomorrow. As always, you know where to find us. It's on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. It's Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.